My name is Alistair Sterling, and if you're hearing this, then maybe I still have time. I'm a freelance architect from Chicago. My life has always been structured: deadlines, blueprints, client calls, and in between all that, my wife Eliza and my 7-year-old daughter Nora. For a long time, we all needed a break, not just a vacation, an escape. That's why I decided this time we wouldn't go to some crowded resort or tourist hotspot. I wanted something different, something quiet, something isolated. A place where the only sound would be the ocean and the air would carry that faint taste of salt. I spent days scrolling through listings, and then I found it. A property with no flashy ads, no promotions, just a simple name: Vance Coastal House. The photos were strangely minimal, only 5 of them. One showed an old wooden house standing right at the edge of the sea, slightly leaning, like it had been resisting the wind for years. Another showed the living room, aged furniture, dim lighting, and a large window that opened directly toward the ocean. There was something about it. The listing simply said, "Perfect for families seeking silence and solitude." That was it. Even the reviews were few, just 3, all positive, but short. Almost too short. Normally, I would have ignored a listing this vague. As an architect, I rely on details: floor plans, structural age, renovation history, things that make sense. But this time something felt different. I was about to close the page, then I looked at the photos again, zoomed in. There was a strange consistency in every image. The furniture looked old, but dust-free. The walls were slightly faded, but there were no visible cracks or damage. It was as if the house was maintained, but not lived in. And then I noticed something else. That same window, the one in the living room. No matter which photo I looked at, different angles, different rooms, that window kept appearing. Sometimes in the background, sometimes reflected faintly in glass surfaces, but always there. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Then I read the reviews. The first one said, "Beautiful silence, best sleep I've had in years." The second, "The ocean feels close, in a good way." And the third one, that one was just a single line: "We stayed longer than we planned." No explanation, no context, just that. I don't know why, but that line stayed with me. There was a contact option at the bottom of the listing. No booking system, no instant reservation, just a name, Arthur Vance, and a phone number. I hesitated for a moment, then I called. The line rang longer than expected. Just when I thought no one would pick up, click. A man answered. His voice was calm, too calm. "Arthur Vance speaking." I introduced myself, told him I was interested in the property. There was a pause, not awkward but deliberate, like he was considering something. "You have a family?" he asked. It caught me off guard. "Yeah, my wife and daughter." Another pause. Then, almost warmly, he said, "Good. The house prefers families." I chuckled a little, thinking it was just an odd choice of words. "Prefers?" "You'll understand when you get here," he replied softly. Something about the way he said it. It didn't sound like a joke. We talked for a few more minutes. He described the house, not in terms of size or amenities, but in terms of feeling. "The mornings are quiet," he said. "The evenings, even quieter." And somehow by the end of that call, I was convinced, not just interested, convinced. After the call ended, I just sat there in silence. The laptop screen was still open, the same house, the same window. Eliza walked in from the kitchen and stopped in front of me. "You found something?" she asked. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then finally said, "Yeah, I think I did." I showed her the photos. Nora came closer too, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Is that our vacation house?" she asked excitedly.
I hesitated, just for a moment. Then I nodded. And that was it. That was the moment the decision was made. Abbas. 2 days later, we were already on the road. The city slowly faded behind us. Fewer buildings, more open sky. Nora sat in the back seat with her headphones on, lost in her own little world. Eliza leaned against the window, calm, peaceful. And me? I was driving, but my mind kept drifting. Arthur's words kept replaying in my head. The house prefers families. It was a strange thing to say, but I brushed it off. At least I tried to. As we got closer to the location, the roads began to change. Highways turned into smaller roads. Then smaller roads turned into something else entirely. Narrow, winding, almost forgotten. Trees started to thin out, replaced by rocky terrain and distant views of the ocean. The air felt different, even inside the car. Heavier. At one point, the GPS signal flickered, then stabilized again. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Eliza asked. I glanced at the screen. Yeah, this is the only way. And somehow, that didn't feel reassuring.
We saw the house before we reached it. It stood alone, exactly like in the photos, right at the edge of the coast. Waves crashed against the rocks below, sending mist into the air. The structure looked old, but not broken, weathered, but standing. Nora leaned forward between the seats. "Is that it?" she whispered. I nodded slowly, but something felt off. The house looked the same, exactly the same, like it hadn't changed at all. He was already there, waiting, standing near the entrance like he had been expecting us at that exact moment. Arthur Vance, middle-aged, tall, wearing a simple coat. His expression calm, almost too calm. As I stepped out of the car, he gave a small nod. "Mr. Sterling." His voice sounded exactly the same as it did on the phone. "Long drive," he added. "Yeah," I replied. "But worth it, I hope." A faint smile appeared on his face. "Oh, I'm certain it will be." There was something about the way he said that, like it wasn't just confidence, like it was a promise. The door creaked softly as Arthur pushed it open. "After you," he said. We stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not bad, just old, like wood that had absorbed years of salt air. The interior looked exactly like the photos, same furniture, same layout. And there it was, that window, the large one facing the ocean. It dominated the room, almost like the entire house had been built around it. Nora walked closer to it immediately. "Wow," she whispered. And for a moment, everything felt normal. Arthur gave us a brief tour of the house. Nothing unusual. Living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms upstairs, a small study near the back. Everything was clean, organized, almost too perfect for a place this old. "You'll find everything you need here," he said calmly. Eliza seemed impressed. "It's beautiful," she said. Arthur nodded slightly, but his eyes weren't on her. They were on Nora, just for a second. Then he looked away. I told myself I was overthinking it. Before leaving, Arthur paused near the door. "There are just a few simple things," he said. I expected the usual, no loud music, take care of the property, that kind of stuff. But what he said was different. "Keep the windows closed after sunset." Eliza frowned slightly. "Because of the wind?" Arthur didn't answer immediately. "Yes," he said after a pause. "The wind." Then he added one more thing. "And if you hear the ocean at night, louder than usual." He looked directly at me. "Don't open the window."
There was a silence in the room after that. I forced a small laugh. Noted. But something about it didn't feel like a suggestion. It felt like a warning. After Arthur left, the house felt quieter. Not empty. Just still. We spent the evening settling in, unpacking bags, arranging things, letting Nora pick her room. She chose the one facing the ocean. Of course she did. Eliza started making dinner while I stood near the window, looking outside. The waves rolled in steadily, nothing unusual. Everything looked calm, peaceful even. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that the house wasn't just there. It was watching. That night, everything was normal. Dinner, laughter, Nora talking endlessly about the ocean. We put her to bed around 9. Eliza and I stayed up a little longer, just enjoying the silence. "You did good," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. "This place, it's exactly what we needed." I smiled. For a moment, I believed that too. Then, we went to sleep. And for a few hours, nothing happened. I woke up in the middle of the night. No reason, just awake. The room was dark, quiet. Then I heard it. The ocean. But not like before. It was louder, much louder. Like the waves were crashing right outside the window. For a moment, I thought maybe the weather had changed. A storm, maybe. I sat up slowly, listening. The sound didn't fade. If anything, it got closer. I looked toward the window. It was closed, locked, just like Arthur had said. The curtains moved slightly, even though there was no wind inside. The sound of the ocean kept rising, wave after wave, louder than it should have been. For a second, I felt the urge to go closer, to open it, just to see. And that's when I remembered his words. "Don't open the window." I froze. Something about that moment felt like a test.
I stayed there, sitting upright in the dark, staring at that window. The sound of the ocean didn't just stay loud, it started to feel closer. Not physically, but mentally, like it was pressing against my thoughts, filling the silence inside my head. Another wave crashed, louder, then another. I swung my legs off the bed before I even realized what I was doing. Slowly, quietly, I stood up. Every step toward the window felt wrong, like I wasn't fully in control, like something else had already decided where I needed to go. Behind me, Eliza shifted slightly in her sleep. I stopped. For a second, everything snapped back. The room, the darkness, the sound. I could think clearly again. What am I doing? But then, a different sound mixed into the waves. Soft, almost like a whisper. Not from inside the room, from outside, right beyond the glass. I turned my head slowly, my breath shallow. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if what I was hearing was the ocean at all. I didn't move for a long time, not forward, not back. I just stood there, staring at the curtains as they shifted ever so slightly, like something on the other side was disturbing the air itself. The whisper came again, faint, broken, almost like words being carried through water. I held my breath, listened. For a moment it stopped. Only the waves remained, loud, relentless, crashing over and over again like they were trying to drown out everything else. Then, a shape. Not clear, not defined, but something moved behind the curtain. I froze completely. It wasn't a shadow cast from inside the room. It was outside, pressed faintly against the glass, just enough to distort the thin fabric. Too tall to be a person standing normally, too still to be anything alive. My heart started pounding so loudly I was sure Eliza would wake up. This isn't real, I told myself. It's just the wind, just the waves, just your mind.
The shape shifted, slowly, like it was adjusting, leaning closer. And that's when I noticed something that made my chest tighten. It wasn't moving with the rhythm of the wind. It was moving against it. The curtain pushed inward slightly, as if something had come right up to the glass, right in front of me. I could feel it now. Not hear it, not see it clearly, but feel it. A presence. Waiting. Watching. The whisper returned, clearer this time, stretched and distorted like a voice dragged through water. I couldn't make out the full sentence, but I heard one word. Just one. Open. My hand twitched. Without thinking, I took another step forward. The window latch was right there, just a few inches away. And for a brief, terrifying second, I wanted to. Not out of curiosity, not out of fear, but because something deep inside me felt like I was supposed to. Like I had already made that decision, long before this night. My fingers slowly lifted, closer to the latch. Closer. Alistair? Eliza's voice, soft, half asleep, behind me. I snapped back like something had cut a wire inside my head. My hand dropped instantly. The whisper vanished. The shape, gone. The curtains fell still. And just like that, the ocean sounded normal again. Distant, far away, like it had always been. I stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the window, trying to process what just happened. "Are you okay?" Eliza asked, sitting up slightly. I didn't turn around. "Yeah," I said, my voice lower than usual. "Just couldn't sleep." There was a pause. Then she lay back down. Within minutes, she was asleep again. But I didn't move. I stayed there for a long time, watching that window, waiting for something to return. Nothing did. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever was out there, it didn't leave. It just stopped trying. For now. I don't remember when I finally went back to bed. Maybe I didn't. All I know is the next thing I was aware of was light. Soft, pale sunlight leaking through the curtains. Morning. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Too normal. The kind of normal that makes you question if the night before ever really happened. I was still lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. My body felt heavy, like I hadn't rested at all. Beside me, Eliza stretched slightly and sat up. "Morning," she said, her voice calm, natural. "Morning," I replied. I glanced toward the window. Closed. Locked. Exactly how I left it. The curtains hung still. No movement. No sign of anything unusual. Just daylight. And the distant sound of waves. Distant. I let out a slow breath without realizing I'd been holding it. Maybe it was just my mind. Maybe... "Dad?" Nora's voice came from the doorway. I turned. She was standing there, already dressed, her hair slightly messy like she'd been awake for a while. "You were talking last night," she said. My chest tightened. "Talking?" I repeated. She nodded slowly. "Yeah, near the window." A cold sensation crept up my spine. "I wasn't talking," I said, a little too quickly. Nora frowned slightly, like she was trying to remember something clearly. "You were," she insisted.
You said, wait." The room went quiet. Eliza looked at me, confused.
"You don't remember?"
I shook my head. No. But the truth was, something about that word felt familiar. Too familiar. Wait. I had heard it before, not from myself,
from outside, last night, mixed in with the whisper. I stood up slowly, my eyes drifting back to the window again. Daylight made everything look harmless, ordinary. But now, I wasn't looking at the glass. I was looking at the outside, the narrow strip of ground just beyond the window, where the house met the edge of the rocky coast. And that's when I saw it, something I was sure hadn't been there yesterday. Marks, long, uneven, dragged across the ground, starting from the rocks near the ocean and ending right below the window. I stepped closer to the window, slowly, carefully, like getting too close might somehow change what I was seeing. The marks were clearer now. Not footprints, not tire tracks. They were dragged, irregular, uneven, like something heavy had been pulled across the ground, something that didn't move the way it was supposed to. A straight path from the ocean to the house, to this window. "Alistair?" Eliza's voice came from behind me. "You see that?" I asked quietly without turning. She walked up beside me and looked out. There was a pause. Then, "I don't see anything." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's right there." I pointed directly at the marks. Eliza squinted slightly, then shook her head. "It's just rocks and sand." My stomach dropped. I looked again. The marks were still there, clear as day, stretching across the ground like a trail left behind by something that had arrived. But Eliza couldn't see them. "Dad!" Nora's voice came again, softer this time. I turned toward her. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the window, at the same spot. "I see it," she whispered. Silence filled the room. Eliza looked between us, confused. "What are you two talking about?" But Nora didn't answer. She just kept staring outside, her expression slowly changing. Not scared, not curious. Something else. Something I didn't like. "It came from the water," she said quietly. A chill ran through me. "How do you know that?" I asked. She blinked once, then pointed. "Because it's still there." My breath caught. "Where?" Nora didn't move her finger. "Standing." "Right, outside, the window." I turned back to the window so fast it almost made me dizzy. My eyes locked onto the exact spot Nora was pointing at. There was nothing there, just empty air, the pale sky, and the restless ocean beyond. "I don't see anything," I said, my voice tight. But Nora didn't lower her hand. "It's there," she repeated softly. Eliza stepped in front of her, kneeling down slightly. "Nora, sweetheart, there's nothing outside." For a moment, Nora looked at her, confused. Then slowly, she shook her head. "You can't see it," she said. "Not you don't see it. You can't." I felt something shift inside me at those words, like a realization forming, something I wasn't ready to fully understand. I stepped even closer to the glass. My reflection stared back at me faintly, tired eyes, pale face. And behind that reflection, for just a split second, something moved. Not outside, not inside. Within the glass itself, a distortion, like the surface of the window wasn't solid but fluid. I blinked, and it was gone. "Did you see that?" I asked quickly. "No," Eliza said immediately. But Nora took a small step back, her eyes still fixed on the window. "It knows you can see it now," she whispered. The room felt colder, the air heavier. I reached out slowly, my hand hovering inches away from the glass. I didn't touch it, not yet, because deep down I understood something I hadn't before. The window wasn't just showing us the outside. It was something else. A boundary, a line between here and whatever was trying to come through. And the worst part, I wasn't sure anymore which side we were actually on.
If you made it to the end of this story, then you already know some places aren't meant to be found, and some doors, once opened, never really close. If this story gave you chills, if you felt that silence, that presence, that window, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because this was just one story. There are many more waiting, hidden in the dark, just like this one. New stories coming soon, and next time, we might not be able to close the window.